I'm Malcolm Van Delst, and this is an excerpt from Do the Wrong Thing, a book series or extra long novel that opens with a woman trying to kill herself. She says, I don't know why I tried to do this, and by way of explanation, tells her life story. I've been getting edits back from book two, so I'm back in book two, even though I was reading way ahead of that before. Last week in Do the Wrong Thing, Ava was beaten by her dad and mom and ran away from home, only to find out that there was nowhere to go. And I'm going to continue on from there, and I'll put my questions at the end. Uncle Arno, towering over my dad at 6'3", points to the pipes overhead, then to the suction cups attached to the cows. You don't need to carry and empty milk containers anymore, he says to the men. The milk goes directly to the pipes and from there to the milkhouse tank. Uncle Arno's voice is quiet and gravelly. So many of my aunts and uncles have raspy voices. I'd think this was caused by lack of use, but Uncle Arno talks to people all day selling farm equipment. He owns a dealership. Is it a German thing? My Canadian friends' parents' voices never sound like this. Dad says he hopes he can milk more cows now to pay for the system. The men laugh and Uncle Arno continues his spiel. I watch the other farmers eye Dad with grudging envy and respect. We're German. We're not Canadians, yet Dad is surpassing them. He always has the latest gear. Uncle Arno watches for new things and the ones he deems worth investing in because they're never cheap. He sells to Dad at a discount, partly because Uncle Arno is my mom's brother, but also because it gives Uncle Arno a way to show off new equipment, not only on a working farm, but an extremely well-kept one. And lastly, if the locals see someone else spending money, they will too. My parents have renovated or rebuilt almost all of the old buildings on our farm and have rehabilitated and expanded all of the land. They buy adjacent properties every time they're available, taking out loans from the bank. They've more than doubled the farm's size since we've moved here 10 years ago. Our fire red brick house sits proud and clean, geraniums around it, amongst a lawn so uniform and trimmed it could be the grounds of a tourist attraction. My mother's vegetable garden with the line of plants so straight they could have been drawn with a ruler sits off to the left when you drive in. The head of the garden is flowers, a riot of glorious, bold color in myriad shapes and sizes. Delicate, ground-hugging marigolds, stronger, stouter asters behind them, and snapdragons rising up at the back on tall, slender stems. I'm sure there's a reason for the flowers, beyond aesthetics. Each year the flowers change. You'd think this was the happiest place on earth, but it's all show. Success before love, or instead of it. In front of Lisa's locker, she hands my letter back to me. Don't think like that, she says. You'll make yourself crazy. I stare at the scratches in the floor's beige tile, terrified of how I've exposed myself. I nod. She's right, of course. Liz says nothing about the letter. Kathy says she can't understand it. I wrote it a couple weeks ago at 3:00 in the morning. Outside, a cold, cruel fishhook of a moon had caught the sky, as if nature was fishing itself. What is all this? I wrote. The moon didn't blink. I sat alert and listened, thinking maybe God would answer. What does anything mean? I continued. Why does anything exist? Why do I exist? Why? Why? That ripped fingernail against its blackened nothing, solitary muteness holding me in place, silence so great. I wanted to scream, but I couldn't. I'd wake my family. I started reading pulp. Nerdy boys I knew loved it, so I thought I'd try. Harlan Ellison, H.P. Lovecraft. Then I'd started letting my mind wander before going to sleep. If you don't keep your mind clear and clean, it'll go to sinning, and thinking about a thing is as bad as doing it. My mind killed my mother over and over again, stomping her eyes out with the left heel of the boots I was allowed to buy for my 16th birthday, stomping her eye until it became a black, empty hole. There was such comfort in that imagining. I wrote the letter trying to, I don't know. God doesn't punish me for my sins, but he tortures kittens for no reason. My mother is miserable, yet she prays all the time. My dad. I'm a billion miles from everybody in the world. I sleep in a room with Sandra, but she might as well be on another galaxy, and I'm a dying star. Don't think like that. You'll drive yourself crazy. Lisa was serious. I've created chapters. I'm starting to include their titles. So now we're into the next chapter called Crush. The light is too bright. It's like the snow when Roxanne and I walked around the school in grade 1. My stomach is in knots. Feels like it's going to drop out of my body. This is a very difficult section to write. Grade 13, I work hard now. I even spoke to my biology teacher, asked him why I didn't get good marks on a couple of test questions. I told him he was judging me by my recent past performance, and if he were to go further back and judge me like he did in grade 9 before I slacked off, he would have given me better marks. He said, okay, he'd keep an eye on things, and he did. Everyone in my classes is serious, university bound, and even respected. We are not going to be plumbers, electricians, and housewives. Some of us will become doctors. Liz wants to be a journalist. I'm thinking early childhood education or social work. All I know is that I want to go to university. I do not want to be a housewife or mother. First day of English class. I'm in a front row, second row from the door. I'm in a front seat, second row from the door. Mr. Fern bursts in, rushes to his desk and slams a ruler down. He screams something, acting out a part from a book we have to read. It's electrifying, crazy. We've been told about his grade 13 classes, but we couldn't imagine this. We laugh with Mr. Fern when he's done his performance. He can say anything now. We're hooked. Mr. Fern has straight, slightly greasy hair cut all one length and hanging a little below his chin, except for bangs, a beard and a mustache. His clothes are businessy, except that the pants are always stopped short at his ankles and his shirts are in weird colors. I remember seeing him in the hall last year wearing a yellow shirt and a purple patterned and shiny tie with the tie flung over his shoulder. He wears earth shoes. Earth shoes are made to keep your heel lower than the rest of your foot. Some hippie thing. They look like this. Tall and gangly. He's a freak who doesn't care what other people think of him. He's head of the English department, though. Mr. Fern is beautiful, not in a manly way. He's like a boy, thin and almost feminine in his mannerisms. His favorite authors are Samuel Johnson and Jonathan Swift. So my questions are, is the repetition of mind okay in the last paragraph in the letter and moon section, and other than that, the regular, what did you like, not like, and why, what works, what doesn't? Thank you.